Morant with a running start. Elevate! Dunks! Oh my goodness! Tie game in overtime. Gasol will turn his heat. It's gone! Memphis on top. 7-10 remaining. Conley now with three. Count it! A 15-point lead for Memphis. And Blake Griffin gets into it on the floor with Randolph. Hard to tell if there are any punches being thrown under there, but Griffin took acceptance. Adams going long. Morant! He hit it! John Morant, insanity!
You gotta be kidding me.
Welcome to Grits and Grinds, a Memphis Grizzlies podcast. My name is Keith Parrish. The Grizzlies made a roster move. No, it wasn't signing Luke Kennard. They signed big man Jay Huff to a two-way contract and waived Trey Jemison. On today's episode, I'm going to talk about this roster move and also tell you everything you need to know about Jay Huff. Before I do, just a reminder to come join me at patreon.com/fastbreakbreakfast. Come join my listener Slack channel. Come play fantasy basketball and football with me. You can do all that stuff for $5 a month over at patreon.com/fastbreakbreakfast. All right, the Grizzlies got their big man. I'm kidding. They signed Jay Huff to the two-way deal. They waived Trey Jemison. They are now, I think, quite clearly using their two-way spots as an extension to the regular roster. They're not necessarily using those as like developmental spots. They're not swinging on some 18 or 19-year-old project. They are attempting, it looks like, to get win-now players in those three two-way spots. Certainly, Scottie Pippen Jr. maybe still has some unrealized potential. He's only 23. He hasn't played that many regular season NBA games, but also he's 23. He's been in the league for a few years. He is on the two-way spot. Scottie is, we think, to help in regular season games. This is, I think, a result of the triple down on youth summer from a few years ago. It's also a result of just where the Grizzlies are in their competitive window. We are in win now mode. Thus, your two-way spots right now, 23-year-old Scottie Pippen Jr., who is anticipated to actually play backup point guard minutes in games where Ja Morant or Marcus Smart or Derrick Rose are invariably hurt or unavailable. Scottie Pippen Jr. expected to come in and contribute to victories. They used a two-way spot on their rookie Cam Spencer. Sure, he's a late second-round pick, but still, he's 24 years old. That is a win-now player. We think he's going to possibly be the cheaper replacement to like a Luke Kennard or a John Conchar. I think you'd call Cam Spencer, while still a rookie, you'd call him a win-now rookie because he's 24 years old. And then finally, Jay Huff. The man turns 27 in a month. I kind of comically mentioned Jay Huff as a guy I liked at Summer League and perhaps someone you would look at replacing Trey Jemison with. Now, I also followed that up by saying, I assume the Grizzlies scouts and front office have a much deeper list of guys. I do not have the bandwidth to keep my finger on like all of the guys not in the NBA or extreme fringe NBA players, but Jay Huff was a guy at Summer League who I was very impressed by, and I was aware of him. The first game at Summer League that I saw this year was the Magic and Cavs. They were playing before the Grizzlies for the Grizzlies' first game in Las Vegas, and I was telling a friend there that, hey, this Magic team's pretty solid. They have Anthony Black playing well. They have Jarrett Culver, longtime NBA guy. They have Jet Howard, and also they had that guy Jay Huff. Just a big man who's been in Summer League a lot. But Jay Huff was so impressive in that game. And then just randomly based on the schedule of games I was able to see, I saw the Magic play several times in person. And every time I was like, this Jay Huff guy's pretty good. So I thought it was funny that I mentioned that guy. All right, maybe this could be somebody the Grizzlies look at for their two-way spot if they decide that Trey Jemison is not their man. I also pointed out how last season Trey Jemison was absolutely a signing of need. They desperately had to have basically any big man, and they decided at that point Trey Jemison was the best guy available. Jay Huff was not available at that time. Jay Huff spent a lot of last season on the Denver Nuggets, so he wasn't available when they got Trey Jemison. So I think it's apparent once Summer League ended, they decided they could, in fact, find a player better on that two-way spot than Trey Jemison, and that guy is Jay Huff. And much like they anticipate, I think, Scottie Pippen Jr. to contribute during regular season basketball games, maybe Cam Spencer will as well, but Jay Huff, I think, just further bolsters your rotation. I've been saying for a while, it still seems like the roster needs an extra big man, but I think this signing kind of forecasts, one, the roster may be done, roughly. And it also says this is a guy they anticipate to help in regular season games in the rotation nights that Zach Edey or Jaren Jackson Jr. or Brandon Clark or Santi Aldama are not available. Now, I'm not an expert on Jay Huff, but I can tell you what I know about him. I can tell you what I've learned about him, and I can also say what I saw in person that impressed me so much. The thing that really popped to me watching him in the last couple of weeks is how big he is and also how he actually fulfills all that size. Like, he's absolutely huge. He's 7'1", but the thing that he did in Summer League was it seemed like he took people by surprise with how huge he actually was. It seemed like over and over and over, defenders would be like, hey, this big guy's not going to dunk on me. Oh, whoops, yes, he is. And the guy was huge, and he was very imposing, both on the offensive and defensive end. Like, you felt every inch of his 7'1" frame. He also is a good shot blocker. So with his size, he would affect a lot of shots in the paint. But then on offense, again, he was very consistent at finishing in the paint, finishing strong with dunks a lot of times. Also, there's a little bit of stretch big to his game. He can shoot the basketball okay. I also think, if you think about the prototype of player that he is, he's much closer to Zach Edey than Trey Jemison was. Now, I'm not saying that Zach Edey and Jay Huff are similar players. I'm just saying when you compare him to Trey Jemison, it's more of the same prototype. Yeah, he's a big guy who's going to protect the rim, but also he can face up towards the basket. And I think when you think about NBA player comps, he's sort of like a Daniel Tice mold. If you squint, a little bit of a Brook Lopez style of center. He's going to screen, he's going to rebound, he's going to block shots, he can face up and knock down a few jumpers. He's also a willing, okay passer. It seems like one aspect to his game that people are high on is the fact that he can just hit a cutter. Very willing to have his head up and see the next pass. Now, a lot of his stats are actually incredibly encouraging, and this is one of the things that I looked into once the announcement came from the Grizzlies. Like, if you just look at his NBA stats, now the caveat of his NBA stats is most all of these are from garbage time. I think he only played in 3 NBA games in the first half. But those first half numbers that he posted for the Wizards a couple of years ago, pretty good. And then also his overall garbage time stats, or his overall stats in total, they paint the picture of someone who can actually help. The positives. In his career, he's 15 for 20 on 2-pointers. That's a very small sample size. It's mainly dunks and reverse layups. I actually watched every one of Jay Huff's NBA shot attempts this morning. Basically dunks and reverse layups. He loves a reverse layup, but that is a good 2-point percentage, 75%. He is 39% career on 3-pointers. Again, very small sample size, only 9 out of 23. But the 3-point shooting, you can trace a through line of his stats all the way back to college and also in the G League. In the G League, where he has a lot of games played, a pretty big sample size, he has posted some very good stats. Also, he was the G League Defensive Player of the Year in 2023. He led the G League in block shots per game that season at 4 blocks per game. But the last 2 seasons in the G League, which conveniently omits his rookie year stats, his rookie year in the G League, he only shot 26% from 3. But over the past 2 seasons, 64 total games in the G League, he made 39% of his 3-pointers. Also was 77% from the line. He blocked 3.1 shots per game. That's very, very good. You look at his Summer League stats. Now, in Summer League this year, He averaged 17 points per game, 5 rebounds per game, 2.2 blocks per game, 36% from the three-point line, 78% from the foul line. Those are Brook Lopez numbers. Of course, it's just Summer League. If you look at his career Summer League stats, now this was his 4th season playing Summer League. His rookie season Summer League stats, they are pretty poor. He made 50% of his 2-pointers. He missed all 8 of his 3-pointers. If you throw out those rookie year Summer League stats, which is very convenient of me to do so, but still, if you throw out those stats from his rookie year in Summer League and just count the last 3 Summer Leagues, he's played in 11 games. He shot 38% from 3. He's averaged 2.5 blocks per game, made 75% of his free throws. Now, when you go back to the regular season stats, one thing that is super impressive beyond, making 75% of your 2-pointers and 39% of your 3-pointers, it's great. Also, a really cool thing about his regular season stats is he's 17 for 18 at the foul line. Small sample size, like all of his stats, but that's 94%. You look at his G League numbers, it's more like mid-70s, upper 70s free throw percentage. You go back to his senior year of college, he shot 84% from the line his senior year of college, although his first 3 seasons, he was a combined 59%. But it does seem like he has developed into being a very competent free throw shooter. And then if you can just find any 7'1" guy who's not a turnstile on defense, who can keep up physically, and that's still going to be a question that has to be answered. Like, this is not a guy I think who's going to come in immediately and be a big impact at the NBA level, but maybe he has a chance of doing that. If he does have any more development left in him, that'll be a nice find for the Grizzlies. But finding anyone who is 7'1", who can just, I'd say, survive at the NBA level, who can finish 70% of his 2-pointers, make a passable number of 3-pointers, let's say 33% of his 3-pointers, and also be a good foul shooter, that seems like a worthy gamble or a worthy investment for your 2-way spot. So for all of those reasons, I think this was a really positive signing for the end of the roster. And you look again at those 2-way spots. You have a point guard, you have a wing shooter, defender, hustler, and now you have a big man. And these guys, I think, are all going to complement the actual main roster. Those guys are here to fill in. These were signings of need. They got guys who they thought could absolutely help. So I'm excited about Jay Huff and what he can bring, not just to the Memphis Hustle. I think he's going to probably play a good bit for the Grizzlies, or at the very least be available for the Grizzlies if Edey or Jaren get in foul trouble, or if there's ever an injury during the season. Now, one interesting note about Jay Huff is he was college teammates of Mamadi Diakite, the guy the Grizzlies traded Zaire Williams for. Maybe that's just a fun bit of trivia, much like Cam Spencer being a college teammate of Santi Aldama. I don't know. I also was thinking, just because the Luke Kennard signing hasn't happened yet, and apparently it's still going to, but I actually was briefly wondering if I jumped the gun, wondering if they were going to waive Diakite immediately. They haven't done it yet. The only hesitation I have is just thinking about the type of player that Diakite is and the fact that he fits the mold that I discussed as being one of my desires for this roster. He's a 6'9" banger. He's kind of a power forward / center mix, a hybrid there. And this feels like, if you just look at him and his body type, maybe another player that could bolster your front line. The thing pushing back against that, it's not just the salary savings if they waive him. Diakite, he's barely been hanging on to the NBA. Essentially, ever since he went undrafted, he has been extreme fringe NBA guy, mainly just signing 2-way contracts. It looks like the only reason that his salary is even partially guaranteed for next year, and I might be wrong about this, but to me, it looks like the only reason that's the case is he sort of won the lottery during the Mikal Bridges trade. For salary reasons, the Knicks needed to include him in the trade, so they guaranteed his deal. This was a guy who was on a 2A and on 10-day contracts. They guaranteed his deal so he would be matching salary in the Mikal Bridges trade. So they sent him to the Nets, and then the Nets sent him to us, of course, in this salary dump for Zaire Williams. So he probably is not going to be on the main roster. He probably will get waived, hopefully not before this episode comes out. But I was just wondering, maybe I jumped the gun a little bit, thinking they weren't interested in him, because there is a roster spot for him still. Right now, the Grizzlies have 13 guys on the main roster, or 14, including Diakite. And then if they re-sign Luke Kennard, that would be 15. Their 3-way spots are all filled. And you look at that, I think good chance that is your roster come opening night. Maybe you lose Diakite and sign another minimum guy. We will wait and see. Also, as far as Diakite, he's 27 years old, and this is already his 6th team he's been on. So he's probably not long for this NBA world. Let's talk a little bit about Trey Jemison, who moves on. Trey Jemison seemed like a great guy. He is going to be one of the best centers in the G League again if he returns there. Maybe he gets lucky and gets picked up by another team on their 2-way spot. Last season, Trey, he appeared in 25 games for the Grizzlies, only tasted victory 5 times. But Trey averaged 8 points, 5 rebounds per game on the Grizzlies, also averaged 1 assist and 1 block per game. He shot 84% from the line in the regular season last year. I don't remember that happening, honestly. It has slipped from my mind, so I commend him for his good foul shooting on the Grizzlies last year. Some of his regular season highlights: he had a career-high 24 points in a win against the Wizards. That was a game I actually attended with my family. He had a double-double with 17 points and a career-best 13 rebounds against the Pistons. He blocked a career-high 4 shots, plus had 9 rebounds and 3 assists in a game last season against the Cavaliers. And perhaps most importantly, Trey Jemison leaves the Grizzlies 125th all-time in franchise history in rebounds. He got more rebounds than Justice Winslow, Lance Stevenson, and Chris Birdman Anderson. Also, he's 80th in Grizzlies franchise history in blocked shots. Trey blocked more shots than Zaire Williams, Ivan Rabb, John Lure, Drew Gooden, and Otis Thorpe, whom the Grizzlies ended up sending the number 2 overall pick in the LeBron and Carmelo draft for. So to Trey, thanks for your service. Bon voyage. Good luck in your next stop. To Jay Huff, welcome to the squad. Let's develop you into the next Daniel Tice / Brooke Lopez. And with that, I think that's good enough for today. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Remember, if you want to support this show, get access to a monthly bonus episode, join my Slack channel, play fantasy sports with me and with other listeners. Do all of that at patreon.com/fastbreak. Breakfast. And coming up in the next few weeks, I think I'm going to do one more look back on last season. Why would anyone do that? Who knows? But I have a lot of stats that I compiled that I want to share about that. And then also I'm going to get some guests on here so I can have some differing viewpoints, someone to push back at me on some of my opinions. So make sure you're subscribed on YouTube and on whatever podcast app you prefer, and you don't miss a single episode. Anyways, hope y'all have a great day. I will talk to you soon. Go Grizz.